Mommy's with the maggots now.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie
Welcome back,
Podcast.
everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. We really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. My man Brian has done a fantastic job with the website. He's got it looking great. Everything about our podcast is on there. All of our episodes and interviews from episode 1 to our weekly release. If you want to check out all of our episodes there, maybe you have an office job, don't have access to your phone, you can listen on your desktop computer. We've done some incredible interviews in the past with some of the biggest names in horror, some of your favorite slashers, writers, directors. Check out our interviews if you haven't heard those yet. We got our store. We got some new T-shirts. Brian and Dustin have done some fantastic designs if you want to check those out. And we also have Shan's Etsy page attached as well if you want to grab a tumbler. And we also have our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We love interacting with our fans. We love, meeting new people. We love answering your comments and questions on the air. So definitely check us out on social media. And the last thing I want to shout out is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. You're a big fan of our podcast, a big fan of our show. You want to help support us. That option is available. And we also have one-time donations. If you want to donate and, if you have a film review you want us to do, that option is available as well. All right, guys, let's jump into the film review. This week is my pick for Freestyle Freelance Month. I brought us back to the 2023s. Like I mentioned last week, we don't really have the time in our schedule right now to do a lot of bonus episodes, 2 a week, 3 a week. It's just summer is really busy for all of us. So I chose 2023's Evil Dead Rise. This is a movie me and Dustin did, a quick instant reaction on. And for the most part, I still feel pretty much the same way as I did in that instant reaction. I will say the movie isn't quite as good as, to me personally, as the first watch. There's just some things that do kind of bother me, that annoy me, that I don't think they answered enough in the movie. But I think Alyssa Sutherland does a great job. She kind of carries it for me. She's fantastic. And, I thought it was a fun movie, but it definitely does have some problems to me personally. Brian, what'd you think, brother?
Okay, so it's no real secret. I've been pretty vocal about disliking literally every entry of this franchise. Again, I've tried to give them a shot, but I hate them, blah, blah, blah. You've heard this before. But, and yeah, part of me will complain that they showed too much of this movie in the trailer, but in doing so, that got me interested in this. It didn't look nor did it feel like the other entries, and that enticed me. I've never seen any of director Lee Cronin's movies, but I was cautious because I knew that Raimi and Campbell were still involved as producers. But I gave this a shot, and man, I was glad I did. Now I can say Brian likes an Evil Dead movie. And it wasn't even just, okay. I thought this movie was fantastic. I think every single one of the actors, even the children, were amazing. But Alyssa Sutherland, you said it, just wow. No relation to Donald or Kiefer or Angus, by the way. But she was astonishingly good. Only an hour and a half runtime, which didn't feel rushed. I really liked this. Trust me, I'm surprised too.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely head and shoulders above the rest of the Evil Dead franchise. Nico, you said it. We did that instant reaction, and while I agree with you, it doesn't. If I were to give it a rating when we did that, it would probably be a little higher than it was this time, but it's still very enjoyable movie. Brian, you mentioned the runtime being great. I agree. There's no wasted motion. I feel like there's no fluff, there's no filler, there's no scenes that I feel like really drag on in this. Everything serves a purpose. They do a good job of really letting you feel and understand and appreciate this family dynamic. And the gore and the special effects are top notch. So yeah, I think it's a very good movie and definitely the best entry in the franchise.
All right, guys, any more opening thoughts before we just jump into it? All right, the film starts with a POV drone shot flying through the woods and up to a dock scaring Teresa. Caleb laughs, bragging about the shot he got of her scared. She asks if he'll go check on Jessica, but he said he gave her meds. Teresa goes into the cabin and calls her name, but no answer. She's slumped on the bed. Teresa asks to take her car to escape since none of the other friends showed up. She sits down to read and Jessica chuckles and begins to say out loud what Teresa is reading. She's terrified as Jessica's voice changes. She falls off the bed and pukes up this white liquid. Teresa checks on her, and Jessica grabs her ponytail and rips her scalp off her head. Teresa limps and falls onto the dock, and Caleb is terrified seeing her. Jessica drops her scalp on the dock and grabs the drone. It hits her in the face, and she falls in the water. He dives in to save her, but Jessica pulls him under and throws his head and neck onto the dock. Jessica levitates out the water as we get an epic title card ascending over the horizon. And this is something I didn't notice, Dustin, but it says one day earlier when we watched it in the theaters, but this is one day earlier. We see Beth in the bathroom taking a pregnancy test. Bruce checks on her. She says she's fine as she sees she is pregnant. Beth is at Ellie's apartment complex now. Ellie is working as Bridget asks her about her protest shirt. She tells her where it's at and to tell Danny to turn the music down. Cassie lies about having the scissors. Ring at the door. Jake invites her to come watch the Freddy movies with he and Scott. She shuts him down and he's down bad. Bridget and Cassie get into a play fight and she runs into Danny's room who's vibing out as a DJ. They grab Cassie and tickle her on the bed. Doorbell rings again and Ellie answers to no one there until Beth scares her and gets smacked in the face. They hug and both roast each other. She tells Beth their building is getting destroyed in a month. Dinner table talk as Danny asks about Bangkok and Beth asks about Stephanie. Beth gets a gift out for the kid's dad in awkward silence. Ellie has Danny go get pizza with the sisters. She tells Beth about the kid's dad leaving. Beth asks why didn't she tell her, and she says she called twice, 2.5 months ago. Beth apologizes and wants to talk. Ellie is shutting her down, saying she has to pack. Beth listens to the old voicemails now, and Ellie sits beside her. She asks Beth what's going on now. She says she screwed up again. She goes to tell her, but an earthquake happens. The ground shakes, and the kids drop the pizza on the ground. Danny sees a hole in the parking garage and finds an underground bunker. Danny goes into the old bank vault to look around. Danny ignores Bridget's pleas to leave as he finds all his old photos and records. He hears some creaking as jump scare from Jesus on a crucifix statue falls towards him. He finds his book covered in bugs. Ellie and Beth try to call the kids to no answer. Gage asks if they're okay and offers to drive Ellie to find the kids. The kids exit the elevator and sadly say they dropped the pizza, Mom. All right, Brian, that's the opening set of scenes I got. What'd you think?
So the only good thing I remember about the 2013 remake, which, I mean, I guess isn't a remake now, but a requel. I don't know. I hated it. But the opening was in my top 10 openings of all time, if you'll recall. Don'tgooutthere.com. And this is really good as well. Like, but this, it's like the subtle things, like the title card reflecting in the lake. As a graphics guy, I appreciate all those like small little touches. That's bicycle font too, by the way, I'm pretty sure. A little fun fact, inside the cabin in this prologue here is a ticking clock on the wall. It's the exact same clock as the one Cheryl's drawing in the OG Evil Dead. And that's one thing that this one does is definitely a lot of Easter egg fan service. I mean, if you're a fan of the series, you're in heaven with all this stuff like that, you know, throughout this entire thing. And just like the reflection of Teresa in that clock, when she walks in, it's just like, it's a great shot. I mean, props to Lee Cronin, but also the cinematographer, Dave Garbey, who also did the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series. I mean, just stellar job in this flick, I think. You know, but we get a scalping first off, which as a Cherokee Indian, I'm very offended by. No, I'm kidding. It was fucking awesome. A little too clean if I'm being nitpicky, but it gets made up for with the drone to the face. But I'll say it's a little bit of a cheesy decapitation. I will throw that as a nitpick. And yeah, like I said in my open, all these actors kill it. Lily Sullivan, yeah, she's a great final girl, does a good job. But it like you mentioned, Nico, it's Alyssa Sutherland, and that she just steals it again for me. I mean, only thing I remember her in is the Mist remake, which I think I'm gonna pick here coming up for Dustin's month. The ending of that movie makes me literally sick to my stomach. I don't know, but anyway, the bond between these two as sisters, I mean, it works. There's a lot of chemistry between the actors. And lastly, I mean, holy shit. You want to talk about Chekhov's gun? I'm not sure I've seen more examples of Chekhov's gun in a movie than you see here. Like, there's so much stuff planted in this group of scenes that comes back. It's crazy. The tattoo gun, the broken broom, the scissors being dropped. There's so much more. But again, not sure I've seen more examples in any movie as much as I've seen, you know, that this one gives. And just overall, great group of scenes. I love how you get a little cabin homage, but the majority of this is in a completely different setting than you're used to seeing in this franchise. As it's we get in the high-rise apartment. It's a welcomed change, in my opinion. And the last thing I'll leave on is just a fun fact: the pizza place is called Henrietta's on the box, a reference to Henrietta Noby, the demon in the basement in Evil Dead 2.
All right, so I love the intro, and I love it so much more after watching the whole movie. Like in real time, I wasn't sure, but after seeing the ending, I love it. It's a perfect way to love how it comes full circle. And Nico, you're right. I didn't notice that either. I don't think where it said one day earlier. I guess we both missed that. But also, I love how the intro pays tribute to the original with the woods and the setting. Wish they would have said it in East Tennessee again, but that's okay. I'll forgive it. And then just absolutely brutal first violence. Like, it's creepy enough when she sits straight up in bed and recites the page from the book, but then she scalps her. Shit, I'm in already. Then I told y'all when we first watched the movie, and I don't think this is a hot take at all. I think this is the best title card I've ever seen. Like, it's phenomenal. It's just perfectly executed. I love how, when she rises up out of the water and the words are behind her, and then it reflects off the water. I just think it's phenomenal. Well done. And then I like how we meet Beth here. It's pretty well done. We're thrown into her world immediately, and it doesn't take much to tell that a pregnancy test is the last thing that she needs, or a positive pregnancy test is the last thing she needs. And then when the neighbors knock on the door there, watching all the Freddy movies in a row is a nightmare, pun intended. There's definitely shitty ones, kids. You're fucking wrong about that. But then the earthquake. Danny climbing down that hole. Stupid. And it's really, like, it's one of the most hard to believe things in this movie. Like, these kids are from California and they know what earthquakes are. They know about aftershock. I just have a hard time believing that anyone would climb down in that hole that soon after the earthquake. And then, Jesus Christ, jump scare. Literally. That's how it came to me in the theater. It's like, Jesus Christ. But I didn't like how...
I just got that.
It's a huge leap in logic for me that Danny would climb down that hole and then, rummage around like that for that long, that soon after the earthquake. And then last thing I have, the probably the biggest issue I have with the entire movie is that, yeah, you dropped a pizza, but it's not ruined. Like, why the hell did you just leave it in the parking lot? Like, you open the box, and I think she got a slice out. Take the fucking pizza box that's inside, you idiots. But it's a very solid open. We get violence right away. We get some creepy shit. So, yeah, I'm all the way in.
Hey, so I got a question. So you guys didn't realize that it said one day earlier in the theaters, but did you? So does that mean that you didn't realize that Jessica at the very end was the same Jessica from the beginning?
No, I did realize. That's what I was saying. I love how it comes full circle. Like, that's what made the beginning make so much more sense. And honestly, I may have noticed that it was one day earlier. I don't remember. But still, it's just like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, what the hell did that have to do with anything when I'm watching it in real time? But yeah, the ending, when you realize that Jessica is like, oh shit, okay, that's how we get there. So yeah, definitely recognize that.
Yeah, I listened to our reaction, and I remember me and you both being like, who the hell were those people? And then it made sense full circle. But on the most recent rewatch, I was like, oh, it said one day earlier.
Yeah.
But they put it like at the very bottom in small font. It's not like super easy to see. Like, Rob Zombie would have blacked out the whole screen and told you it was a day earlier.
That's because he's the GOAT.
Oh, okay. Back in the apartment, the news anchor speaks on the earthquake as Ellie packs up. Danny asks Bridget if the book is maybe worth something. Mom could use the money. Dan tries to pry the book open and cuts himself and bleeds on it. The book opens on its own now, and they look through the horrifying pictures, and Dan can't stop looking. Bridget slams it shut, saying she doesn't like it and to take it back in the morning. Beth prepares a bath for Cassie and fakes like she's attacked in the tub to mess with her. Beth grabs her belly when she gets a weird pain, and Cassie hugs her. Dan listens to the record now. We hear from Father Marcus, who speaks on the Book of the Dead. The congregation says it's heresy and to destroy the book. Record scratch, and Dan plays the next record. He speaks on translating the book as we see Ellie walking to the laundry room. She takes the elevator down. We hear her chanting now as the record won't stop playing. We see the spirit flying to the apartment complex as it blasts Ellie into the elevator as it goes up the elevator shaft rapidly. She's in pain and can't exit. She calls for help and she hears voices now. Her hair is grabbed by her and her earring is ripped out. A cable wraps around her neck, hanging her, and she's grabbed by the arms and legs by other cables binding her. The power in the apartment goes out and Bridget says everyone else has it. Beth and Cassie go into Mom's room, but she ain't there. Ellie enters the apartment, ignoring everyone, and goes into the kitchen. She turns the burners on and begins cooking eggs, shells and all. Beth is concerned, and Ellie tells them about her dream in the forest. It was a perfect day, and she could only think about cutting their bodies open and climbing inside. She begins to laugh and shake, and she drops the pan on the ground. It's in me, she says, as she falls to the floor, crawling towards them. She vomits white liquid up. Don't let it take my babies, as she collapses. Dan and Beth drag her down the hall as Beth tells Bridget to take Cassie inside. The elevator isn't working, and the stairs are gone. Beth is telling Gabriel and Mr. Fonda about what happened. Calls still can't be made as Gabriel asks to pray. Mr. Fonda asks what happened to her face. They are stuck in this building. Gabriel is trying to break into her room, and Fonda says he'll get a shotgun and blast the door down. Beth sits beside Ellie saying, I don't know what to do. She's the one who always has the answers. She holds her hand and cries as we hear the voicemail play from her phone and Ellie's voice say, help her, she's burning. A fly lands on Ellie's eye and she blinks. She's alive and sits up swiftly. Beth approaches her and the kids enter the room. All right, Brian, this next set of scenes we got, what'd you think?
Something else this movie does that differs from the franchise, but yet still holds it together, is focusing on the book. It does it to the point of actually establishing that there are 3 books of the dead, if you noticed here. Apparently that was a concept that's been floating around since early in the franchise. I'd also like to point out that in our very first interview with Adam Marcus, don'tgoother.com, he mentioned that this is why he added the Book of the Dead and Jason Goes to Hell, because Jason being a Deadeye, it's now canon, that whole thing. But I like the story choice here with focusing on the book in this movie. I want to shout out the soundtrack too. Stephen McKeon hasn't done much at this point besides a Black Mirror episode, but I thought it was great. There's a piece in this set of scenes that sounds almost like a siren singing that reminds me of our opening and closing of this show. And I like it all the way through this movie. By the way, Dan needs to stop taking blood thinners because that little nick dropped like a shitload of blood on that book, by the way. My man may have a blood disorder is all. He needs to check that out. Get that checked out. But fun little fact here, in the first of the 3 records that Danny plays, Bruce Campbell can actually be heard saying, destroy it. It's called the Book of the Dead for a reason. That was my Bruce Campbell impression, if you didn't know. But and that may or may not be headcanon for some people since Ash did time travel in this franchise. So yet another little Easter egg there. The elevator scene has to be a throwback to that, tree violation, I guess we pointed out in our review of the first one, right? It has to be. But man, Ellie's turn again. I know it's a lot of this was in the trailer, her cooking the eggs, but man, it's so damn good. Just another little fun fact. Sutherland said that she took inspiration from Jim Carrey in The Mask. Again, one of the most memorable performances that I can remember. I mean, I can understand why they put this stuff in the trailer because hell, it's what sucked me into it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, the second that book starts opening on its own like that, yeah, I'm out. I'm throwing that bitch out the window on the 14th floor. Don't care. The movie's over. Like it's a shorter movie if I'm involved. And I get wanting to make it dramatic and put over, how old these records are. But they were locked in a box inside a vault. Where the hell did the 3 inches of dust that Danny blew off the records come from? Like, come on. Like, that's just one of those things. Like, I get it. You're doing it for dramatic effect, but don't need it. You get a great scene with Ellie in the elevator paired with the record audio. And then, the creepy shit continues after the audio stops. I think it's very intense stuff. And I think intense is a great way to describe the rest of this movie from here on out. Then when Ellie gets back in the apartment, holy shit, this is very good stuff here. Cooking eggs with the shells, just throwing the eggs in the pan like that, acting all deranged, very creepy. And then when she says, it's in me, whew, that's some crazy shit. And then, probably my favorite thing of this set of scenes, like the creepiest shit is, Ellie's laying in bed, dead, they assume, and then the voicemail just starts playing on its own. And then you look back at Ellie and her eyes are open and she sits up. Stairs gone or not, fuck that. I'm getting out. I'm just going to drop down and take my chances. If I break my ankle, like that's fine. I'm going to crawl my ass out of the building. because fuck everything that's happening on this floor. But very good set of scenes as far as just, amping up the intensity. If you want movies that are just unsettling and going to make you feel on edge, to me, it doesn't get much better than this.
She's burning up and they drop her in the bathtub. She begins to react violently to the water, shaking, then leaping to the ceiling. She crawls on the walls and lets out a blood-curdling scream. She stops and falls into the tub. She lifts her head out the water and smiles. Mommy's with the maggots now, and she begins to crawl towards them. Ellie stands up with a piece of glass in hand. Ellie charges Beth and stabs through her hand. Bridget yells for her to stop as she drops the glass. She says she's free from all these titty-sucking parasites. She grabs a tattoo gun and stabs into her own skull, then cuts into Bridget's cheek. She goes to lick her, and Dan hits her with a chair. Gabriel enters the place, and Ellie asks who wants to run next. Ellie pounces on Gabriel, knocking him into the hallway. She bites his eyeball out and spits it down Jake's throat, and he chokes on it. Beth slams the door shut, locking it. Ellie bangs her head on the door as Beth and kids barricade it. Beth sees Ellie chasing after Scott, who is killed off screen. She sees Ellie rip Gabriel's throat out. Fonda approaches with a shotgun, but is attacked. Beth opens the window, calling for help, to no luck. Bridget asks Dan about Mom looking like one of the pictures from the book. The kids begin to fight, and Beth intervenes. Don't turn on each other, ever. Dan shows Beth the book and the records. Cassie asks about Bridget's face, her face wound, who walks past her saying she's okay. Ellie sings in the hallway, and Cassie walks towards the door. Bridget turns on the burner and looks at her wound in a mirror. Dan says it's all his fault. Bridget sees her wound growing, and a voice calls her name. The book flies open, and Bridget's nose and mouth bleeds. Cassie looks out the peephole at Mom. Ellie approaches the door, saying she felt sad about her dad, and he came home. We're back together. Bridget drinks water to no help and then vomits up bugs. Ellie says to open up and let us in. We can be a happy family again. Open up now, like a good girl. Cassie unlocks the door, and Ellie grabs her, choking her. Beth and Dan run to her aid, locking the door. Ellie insults Beth, and Beth's feelings are hurt. Danny and Cassie are in his room as they hear noises in the kitchen. Beth goes and checks it out, seeing Bridget crouched on the counter. She's eating a glass cup to kill the creepy crawlies. She laughs at Beth and spits blood on her. She crawls down the counter and grabs a cheese grater, grating Beth's leg. Beth hits her with a metal spatula and then a pot. Bridget chases after Dan now. She charges at Cassie, who stabs through her mouth with Stephanie. She pulls the staff out her mouth and falls over on the floor. Beth cleans up Cassie's face, saying it's just like a nightmare. Cassie tells Beth, you'd be a good mom someday. You know how to lie to kids. Beth sees Bridget tied up and asks to hear the vinyls. Beth rigs up a power source and plays them. Beth gives Dan a knife, just in case, and begins listening to the vinyls. Ellie looks pissed as the records play. Ellie hears the kitty and the ducks and smiles. Dan looks out the peephole, not seeing Ellie anymore. Dan follows the noise and says, I don't think that's a cat. And the next set of scenes are the end. Brian, what'd you think?
This set of scenes is definitely my favorite. Everything from that opening, Mommy's with the maggots now line. I mean, oh my God, it's great. Sutherland just fucking kills it. That stab through Beth's hand, the tattoo gun, which I guess the fact that Ellie sticks it in her own head and then into Bridget's is why she gets infected and not why Beth didn't. But you'd kind of think that, she would have transferred some blood, like into Beth, holding that piece of broken glass and cut herself and then maybe stabbed her. I don't know. Maybe that's overthinking it there. That biting out, is it Gabriel? Gabriel, I think's his name's eyeball. That crunch sound is actually Bruce Campbell recording biting into an apple. Gruesome sound added that shot. It was perfect. And that eyeball spit out, definitely another reference to Evil Dead, a shot that does look and play much better here. Evil Dead 2, I'm sorry. And yeah, I think that shot does play much better here than that movie to me. But speaking of perfect, my man Garby was in his bag with this POV shot through the eye hole of that door, and Ellie hunting down everybody out there, even the kids. Fantastic. Gabrielle's throat slash with her fingernails is definitely my favorite kill. Just brutal as fuck, and just what a hallway massacre out there. I loved it. And then we get Bridget's turn. The effect on that blood I thought was great. It was definitely on point, and the creepy crawlies that came out and that puke, her eating the wine glass, and it going down her throat. This whole thing was so realistic to me that it started to kind of mess with me a little bit as far as the whole demonic possession thing went. Whereas the others in the franchise, it was almost like a zombie spoof thing to me. I don't know. That'll probably upset some of the fans of the franchise there, but the way that this was done was definitely the better route, in my opinion, is all. But here where Bridget spits on Beth and uses the cheese grater. Shouldn't all of that kind of exchange of the blood, kind of give her the virus too? I don't know. There's fucking blood everywhere. Cronin did say in an interview that over 1,700 gallons of fake blood were used for this movie, which I know first thought goes to that. Okay, well, a lot of that was probably the Overlook Hotel elevator blood scene, but honestly, that was probably all CG. So I don't know. There's just a ton of blood used here and in the finale for sure. And I love it.
Yeah. So why are they just sitting there when she pops out of the tub? I take big issue with that. Like, this woman just pulled a Spider-Man, climbing all over the ceilings and the walls and shit, and then screams so loud that she shattered the mirror, and you just sit there and look at her. So I guess I'm just built different. Like, I would be in the next county by this point in the movie. And then free from all you titty-sucking parasites. That is an all-timer of a line. Love that. That's fantastic. But then when all the shit's going down, Danny coming in with the ECW chair shot. But what took so long? Like, you let Bridget get an involuntary face tat. What the fuck, dude? You just sat there and watched the shit happen. They decided, I guess I'll step in. But, okay, whatever. And then we get some great effects on the eye being bit out of Gabriel's face. But I have issue with that scene because, come on. The other dude he couldn't close his mouth or turn his head or move out of the way when she spit the eyeball at him. It seems like that eyeball was in the air for a long time. Like, it's a long distance, and you just let it happen. Okay. And then we get a stupid fight between Bridget and Danny. Of course it's Danny's fault. That's not even up for debate. Next. Like, what are you talking about, idiot? And then why the hell would they just leave Cass alone like this? Like, that's the worst. These people suck, honestly. Like, I'm not sure at this point who I'm rooting for because they all suck. And then Bridget's face pouring the black goo. Yuck. Honestly, it looks like my shampoo. Like, I use this charcoal and mint shampoo, and it's a very similar color and consistency. So that's all I can think about. So next time I get in the shower, I'm going to put some in my mouth and spit it out and FaceTime you guys. But, balls, actually. Never
don't
mind.
ever pay
I'm not
ever
ever
in the
FaceTime
shower.
you from the shower. Whoa. Sorry. But, so we get a very disturbing visual when Bridget swallows the glass and it pokes through her throat. Like, I can't tip my cap enough to the special effects department and the whole crew that worked on this movie because it's visually stunning. Like, that's incredible, seeing the glass poke from the inside like that. And then the cheese grater to the calf. Brutal. Like, God, that makes my skin crawl. But I do agree with you, Brian. Like, some of the logic, I don't understand how the virus or demons or possession, whatever you want to call it, I don't really understand the logic of who's infected and who's not. Because you're right. Like, I would assume that would get old Bethy Boo, but no? Okay. But if you just take a step back and watch this set of scenes and don't think too much into it, another great one.
All right, guys, here's the ending. We see Bridget walking behind them, and she flies towards Cassie. Dan stabs her right in the gut, but she tackles Dan into the kitchen, counter-stabbing through his arm into the counter. Bridget vomits blood all over Dan's face. Dan lights Bridget on fire, and she collapses on the floor. Ellie descends behind Beth, and she sees Ellie in the reflection. Beth stabs Ellie in the neck, and we see Beth launched out of the room. She crawls to Dan, who apologizes to Cassie and dies. Ellie grabs Beth, I will swallow your soul, and begins to sniff her. She says, 2 souls? When she gets to her belly. Ellie pushes her fingernails into her skin until Cassie slides the scissors to Beth. She stabs into her mouth and head and lets her go. Beth and Cassie exit the apartment to try and escape. She tells Cassie, don't look back, and tries to break the door handle to the fire escape. Beth takes the shotgun from Fonda as we see Ellie blink and remove the scissors. Beth shoots Ellie's leg off. Ellie tries to manipulate Cassie, and Beth shoots her arm off. She bludgeons Fonda in the head as the other Deadites begin laughing. Dead by dawn, they begin to chant. The elevator doors close, and the lights turn on as we see blood fill the elevator up. Cassie cries as we see the Deadites begin to absorb into each other and chant no way out. The elevator falls to the bottom, spilling blood everywhere. Beth and Cassie make it to the parking garage. They get in the car and begin to drive away, but the beeper to open the gate doesn't work. Thud as the car drives into a hole in the ground. We see the blob running at them. They crawl out of Cassie's door and hide. The two run to the back of the car now, then the driver's side. They hide by a support beam, then take off running for the gate, but Cassie is caught and drug away. Beth breaks back into the parking garage as the blob grabs a chainsaw, cranking it up. Beth shoots it in the back, and Cassie escapes. They launch a chainsaw at Beth, and she trips, falling off the car she was on. They turn the wood chipper on and try and force Beth into it. Cassie runs over and turns it off just in time. Beth grabs the chainsaw, yelling for Cassie to turn it back on. She stabs the chainsaw into the blob and feeding it into the wood chipper, spraying blood everywhere. Ellie looks at Beth, saying, "Please help me, Bethy Boo." Beth stabs the chainsaw into her head, pushing her into the wood chipper. Beth kicks her head into it as she talks shit about her failing as a mom. Beth turns the machine off, and she and Cassie hug. Beth grabs a chainsaw, and the two exit the garage. We now see Jessica leaving her apartment, taking the stairs to the parking garage. She's on the phone telling her friend they're going to have fun at the lake. Teresa says she wants to take a rain check, but Jessica says she's picking her up in 15 and hangs up. She looks out the back of her car and sees blood everywhere. She's terrified walking around the parking garage, and a clanging noise scares her. The spirit zooms towards her as she screams, and the film ends. All right, Brian, what'd you think about the ending?
It was all right. It was a little bit of a letdown, just compared to how perfect I thought the rest of the movie was for me, but it was fine. I'm not sure I liked how over the top we got with the thing, like demon creature. Like, do we need a big boss, like a super shredder like we got? I mean, sometimes just a regular shredder, is still okay. I mean, those things are hard enough to kill anyway. I mean, maybe another emotional moment towards the end with the mom or the sister and them having to kill her family would have been fine. I don't know. It would have been fine with me anyway, but it's Evil Dead. So I get the over-the-topness. That's a new word, I guess, over-the-topness. I get why they went that route, but I'm just saying like how I would have done it is all. I know it's not necessarily the third act, but at the start of the set of scenes with Bridget wearing that blanket is just such a damn cool visual. I haven't given enough props to Gabrielle Eccles, who played Bridge, either. She did such a good job throughout. And really this whole battle with Ellie in the house, Danny having that last moment with his sister under the couch, and Ellie and Beth talking about her unborn bastard baby. Just a continuation of my favorite set of scenes, the last set, up until the third act is where they, when they leave the apartment. It's just so damn good. Like I said, though, everything in the parking garage was a little bit of a letdown, in my opinion. That's all.
For some reason, I love the fact that Bridget didn't take the blanket off her head. You mentioned it kind of there, but she's just flying around the apartment looking like a Scooby-Doo ghost, and I really appreciated that. And then I love the showdown between Beth and Ellie here. Like, Ellie's arrival into the room was creepy as shit, and how Beth realized she was behind her. And you just felt that tension. Beth listening to this record doesn't have a clue in the world what's going on behind her, and then boom, she's there. And then I loved Ellie using her finger as a needle on the record and her mouth as a speaker. Like that was a very unnerving scene as well.
Yes.
And then the way that she just stood there as Beth stabbed her in the neck. Like, it was like, okay, are we in the clear? And then boom, we cut to Beth goes flying through the door. Like, I think that scene was very well done. It was awesome. And then the showdown in the hallway is even better. Like, she blew her damn leg and arm off with a shotgun. And it looked great. Like, it's complete detachment. Love that. And then very creepy shit with Bridget and Danny and Ellie laughing hysterically like that. Like, Bridget and Danny come out to the hallway and you think they're crying, and it's meant to play with, I guess, Cassie's emotions like that. And then boom, they just start laughing and looking, and it looks so damn creepy. But when they morphed into one, I didn't really care for that. Also gross, like the way they were just digging in her ribs and shit. But I didn't really like the way they morphed into one person. I could have done without that.
Exactly.
I love the blood gushing out of the elevator. Great nod to the great Stanley Kubrick, Brian's favorite. And then the garage scene, I kind of disagree, Brian. I liked the garage scene because, it's just that, I don't know, it was a big game of cat and mouse. Are they going to make it or are they not? And then when they do make it out of the gate, but they pull Cassie back in. Now, I will say that when they pulled Cassie back in by the leg, I was kind of like, what do you do? They were playing with their food too much. That seemed like an abnormally long amount of time for Cassie to just be nick free. If if Ellie and the other two wanted to actually kill her, then they could have done it by then. But they threw her in the back of that truck and they were just kind of creeping towards her. Could have done without that. It's not really realistic. But I've never seen a bigger missed opportunity to use Raining Blood by Slayer. Because it was literally raining blood in that parking garage when they pushed her into the wood chipper. That would have been a perfect addition to the soundtrack and score there. And then, to me, the best part of this ending, though, is how it ties in our open. Like I said, when we see everything come full circle, we see Jessica prepping for the cabin trip here on the phone. Chef's kiss to that. Like, it's a great way to explain what happened in the open and show that evil doesn't die. Like, yeah, they may have survived this, but it's far from over. And it leaves it wide open for, a sequel to this movie, which I said on the instant reaction, I'm here for. I've been kind of harsh on studios for lack of creativity and new ideas, and tired of pumping out the same shit and sequels and requels and all this. But to me, this one warrants a sequel. Like, I'm into it. Lee Cronin did a great job writing and directing this movie, so I'd like to see what he's got for round 2.
All right, guys, let's jump into our social media comments and questions. We'll do Twitter first. Spearhead comment, one of my favorite franchises you will enjoy and some very creepy parts. I would agree with that. Sean Irwin said, I had a lot of fun watching this movie. Definitely one of the more disturbing entries in the franchise. Kevin Scanlon, teammate of the show. I was never a fan of the OG, but I really enjoyed this one. Love the rainy, dark atmosphere you get throughout. And I really enjoyed the opening scene and that it comes full circle with the end of the film. The acting was solid as well. Great pick, Nico. Me and Kevin haven't been on the same page recently, so that means a lot, saying it was a good pick. Appreciate that.
He brought up a good point about the atmosphere, too. I mean, it's really good. He's right.
That was one of my biggest complaints, if you listen to our reaction, was how dark it was. You couldn't see. But I think that was just a theater, because it definitely wasn't an issue like watching it on Vudu or HBO Max or whatever. Mookie commented, while I like this one, it's missing something. It didn't have Evil Dead vibes and made like 2013's more. Still have the OG trilogy above both the new entries, though. Okay, I can understand that. If you're a diehard Evil Dead fan. Facebook, Kevin Podoff, great movie, great overall movie. Kids did an amazing job. Love the Voltron combination monster at the end. Okay. I wasn't a big fan of that personally, but Michelle Merzen commented, this movie scared the shit out of me, and I loved every minute of it. Also, the kids did an amazing acting job. They did. They were good. Dex Cole, Dustin's burner account, said, I don't think any entry in the Evil Dead franchise is disappointed, and this one is no different. Hopefully we'll get more Evil Dead films sooner rather than later. Considering how much money it made, I don't think that will be an issue, my friend. And Jennifer Tyree commented, I loved it. Still pissed about the pizza. That pizza was fine to eat. Who wastes perfectly good pizza? I mean, shit, they needed the energy just to fight the mom off with the shrug emoji. Hey, I'm with you, sis.
Hey, here's my theory on that. As, the shit settles and whatever, kids go upstairs, they just leave that pizza there. Keanu Reeves comes parking in that parking garage like, oh, fuck, free fucking pizza.
Free fucking pizza.
That TikTok is still doing numbers. It's almost 30,000 views, Dustin. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. All right, let's jump over to Instagram now. Too Close Podcast, big fans of the show. How much did you freak the hell out during the tattoo gun scene? I love Evil Dead and went in thinking this wouldn't be good, and I was pleasantly terrified with how dark and funny this was. I'm not a remake kind of gal, but this one felt like it was true to the Evil Dead franchise. Can't wait to hear y'all's thoughts on it, Jen. Hey, I appreciate the comment. And the tattoo scene was definitely freaky. And one of the best usernames on Instagram, Optional 13th Ghost. I really wanted to like this one, but I just thought it wasn't entirely successful in towing that line between scary and campy. I will say that the cold open and title card coming out of the lake was amazing. Very good opening scene. I will agree with that.
Very.
That's it for social media. Y'all got any fun facts you want to read?
Yeah, I got a few. And Dustin brought this up. I mean, we talk a lot in our group chat about how all of the studios are literally, going with every single IP they have in an effort to, really overload their streaming channels with content. This is another that the film was meant to release exclusively through HBO Max via, direct to streaming. But it performed so strongly during test screenings that the studio decided to release it theatrically instead. And whenever, we get to the budget here in a little bit, you'll see that was obviously the right choice. Another fun fact brings the Evil Dead back to New Line Cinema, the house that Freddie built, who distributed the original film's theatrical release in 1983. And is the only Evil Dead film to not feature the 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale vehicle.
All right, the only one that I've got then is the record found in the vault with the Necronomicon was recorded in 1923. However, disc-style records weren't invented until 1930. So, it's that attention to detail to get you every time.
Nice. As far as the budget goes, the budget was, depending on the source, 15 to 19 million to make this, which is pretty damn high for an Evil Dead movie. But like I said, there was a good choice to put in the theater. It grossed 146 million in the theater. So yeah, you're right.
Dustin's
Definitely
weekly salary.
So yeah, Dustin's weekly salary.
Beg your fucking pardon?
Don't be humble, rich guy. All right, let's jump into our favorite part of the show, the favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating. Brian, you want to kick us off this week?
Yeah, sure. My favorite kill was Gabe's throat slash with the fingernails. I really liked that. My least favorite kill, Mr. Fonda off screen, which I'm sure is a Bridget Fonda Army of the Dead reference there for sure. All in all, like I said, I really like where they went with this installment. It's currently the only one in the series that I actually like. And, they left it open, like Dustin mentioned, to go a number of different ways, which I'm a fan of. I mean, like I said, the book is still in the apartment. So, just take some advice from this old man podcaster here. Just keep it on a smaller scale like this. Like, let's not have some fucking army of deadites and, you can make some more. But if not, this was a great one to end on. I thought the movie was damn near perfect, but the third act to me fell a little flat. I gave the first Evil Dead a 3.75. I can't see any of the others getting higher than that, but we'll see when we eventually do them all. Which should tell you how much I really think of this one, because I'm going to give it an 8.75.
My favorite kill was the mutant demon in the wood chipper at the end there, just because it's so gory and there's so much blood used. And like I said, I really wish they would have used raining blood there. Would have put it over the top. But my least favorite kill was the kid that choked on the eyeball. Like, they killed him, right? We never saw him again, I think. But stupid. Like, close your damn mouth. Mouth breather.
Good point.
You'd probably still be alive. But as far as the movie goes, definitely enjoy it. It held up the second time I watched it. I liked it almost just as much as I did when I saw it in the theater. I said at the time on our instant reaction that this was probably my favorite movie I've seen so far in 2023. I don't know that it would still be that, because Spider-Man was so damn good and Super Mario Brothers was so damn good, but really damn good movie. Probably my favorite horror movie of the year, right there with Scream 6. So I definitely recommend it. It's the best in the franchise. I want to see a sequel to this, Lee Cronin. I gave the movie an 8.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read Mike's. Lisa Sullivan, call me sometime. Lily Sullivan, call me sometime. No, he didn't really say that. I really wish I was able to make it on the show, but I suck at balancing the new job schedule. We all honestly, sidebar, don't know why he even has a job. He's so rich. They call him Money Mike for a reason. But anyway, this movie is really fucking good. As someone who isn't a fan of the franchise outside of the remake and Evil Dead 2, if I'm in the right mood, I had low expectations. They blew those out of the water. For the first time in a long time, there was a movie that genuinely gave me the creeps. Also, the runtime flew by. Alyssa Sutherland's fantastic here. She gives one of the better character performances I've seen in a long time. I've talked before about how I feel about kids in horror movies, and they play that up to perfection. Keeps this movie even more of a creep factor. The mood and atmosphere that director Lee Cronin was able to capture put me in the horror movie watching mood. I'm normally just not a fan of the whole deadite idea, but I think it's executed perfectly here. The cold, wet, yuck feeling stays that way the entire film. I can say with my full chest that this is my new favorite film in the franchise. Also, shout out to doing what is basically a one-location horror film. I love those. Favorite kill, Gabriel the neighbor. Fucking brutal. I love the use of gore in this film. Least favorite, Teresa at the beginning. You don't actually see her die on screen. So a rating 8.5 and was tempted to go higher. Definitely getting another Evil Dead. Explanation point. That's 2.
All right. My favorite kill, I want to agree with you guys as well. Gabriel was my favorite. Bit and got his eyeball bit out, and then he got his throat slashed. But I will say Teresa's my runner-up for favorite kill just because how good the opening scene was and the ripping her hair and scalp off. I thought that was awesome. And me and Dustin kind of mentioned our little reaction, this might be a top 10 opening horror scene for us going in the future. Really damn good. Least favorite kill, I guess you could go with the eyeball one, but I'm going to go with Fonda as well, just because it doesn't happen on screen. Ellie just he just falls down and then he gets hit in the head. Could have expected a little more. Maybe you could have showed his head getting bashed in or something. It's not like they haven't shown us enough blood and gore in this movie. Could have shown a little more, I guess. Rating, like I mentioned, I really like this movie, especially the first time watching it. Really good blood, really good gore. Alyssa Sutherland was fantastic. She carries the movie. Everyone else does a fine job as well. Biggest issue I really have, I feel like, and this might not make sense to y'all, but this is just how I felt. The kind of character development feels very rushed to me. Like Beth gives that line, "Don't ever break up, ever," because she's talking about her significance between her and her sister. But the whole time you've seen them is just, they're not really getting along. They're kind of just now starting to, I don't know. I wish I would have just saw more sister relationship. Everything kind of seemed rushed in a bad way and a good way. Like, you're not bored, but like the story just happens kind of fast. But I still like the movie a lot, but I couldn't quite go 8. I gave it a 7.75. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I would like to see another one.
It gives us a composite score of an 8.25. IMDb has it at just a 6.7, so these people clearly need to watch it again because they're wrong.
Clearly.
It's all them diehard Evil Dead 1 and 2 fans. Don't like anything new. So what do they know? Anywho, I'm just kidding. I'm not gatekeeping what you should like. Any more final thoughts before I just shout out the blood donors and Dustin can announce his pick for next week?
No, let's do it.
All right, blood donors, really appreciate y'all. Y'all are amazing. You take a big, big burden off of us. Camper level reoccurring is Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, Sean Irwin, Brian Samick, Trisha, and Kelsey Miller. Camp counselor reoccurring are Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home pod, Kyla Denise, all the way from Australia, Adrian Aiello, Jake Hambrick, Clay Moore, Karen, Matt Strickland, and Gail Kuntz. Really appreciate y'all's support. It takes, I can't stress it enough. The economy is very bad right now. Financial times are tough. It means a lot that you donate your money. And I just want to say one more qualm I had. I didn't like the ending either. Like, it just, I don't know, the big blob. I wasn't a big fan of it. I know this franchise is kind of hokey and all that, but that it didn't work for me. I'd rather just seen Ellie taking them all on by herself or something like that. But that's just me. Dustin, you want to announce your pick as we close out Freelance Month?
Yeah. I picked Scream 1996. No, I'm just kidding. I picked a movie that I stumbled upon, I think, towards the end of last year. It may have been the beginning of this year. I don't know. Time flies. But I found this movie somehow, and I'm really glad I did. I can't think of any other scenario where I'd pick it. So I went with 2019's Little Monsters. This one is a Hulu exclusive. So if you're planning on watching it, that's how you can find it. It's a horror comedy. It's a little zombie movie. And I had a lot of fun with this when I watched it the first time. So excited to share that fun with you guys.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Just want to say thank you to all our fans. I really appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. Looking forward to watching Little Monsters. I haven't seen that one yet, to no one's surprise. But yeah, it's been an awesome year, and it was, I don't want to say overdue doing this one, but I'm glad we got to do this one.
Same. Definitely not overdue.
All right. Thanks for all the support. We appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Just want to remind everybody.